Buenas, bienvenidos a este vídeo de unplandivino.net, por así decir, y vamos a continuar con este taller del deseo que lo hemos empezado, ya lo hemos presentado en el anterior, así que saludad y seguimos enseguida. Claudia, ¿qué tal? Sigues viva, ¿verdad?
Sí, sigo acá, súper deseosa. Gracias, Iván.
Gracias. Y Ana de Venezuela, gracias también. ¿Estás ahí viva?
Sí, estoy viva. En total asombro y haciendo estas conexiones para que iban ampliando. La palabra clave que dijo Iván, quiero traerla a colación. Nuestro destino es una constante transformación.
Sí.
Y eso es maravilloso. Gracias, Iván.
Que se dice pronto. Bueno, vamos a ver la continuación.
Had a mass exodus.
Aquí creo que dice que vaya éxodo masivo. No sé si es que se habrá ido alguien en el descanso o se habrá ido algunas personas. No lo sé si es eso. Creo que ha dicho eso. La broma.
How's everyone coping with the desire discussion so far?
Aquí les pregunta qué tal les está yendo con esto hasta ahora, con el tema del deseo, la conversación.
Good. The next thing I'd like to talk about with you is this principle that's a part of the law of desire, and that is what I desire, I personally create. Now, of course, this applies just as much to your desires that are disharmonious with love as it does to the desires that are harmonious with love. Does that make sense? So what you desire that's disharmonious with love, you will also create. So, for example, if I desire to control and manipulate you, and that's a real desire within me, then I will finish up creating that. In other words, what will happen is the people who will be attracted to me are people who desire to be controlled and manipulated. And I'll be perfectly happy with the situation, and so will they, in many cases. If I desire in a pure manner, in a loving manner and based on truth, then whatever that desire is will be created. And then people say, well, you know, I desire lots of money. How come I haven't got that? Because what I desire, I create. And you see, it's like a feedback system for you as well. You say you want plenty of money, but what you desire, you create. So if you really did desire plenty of money, then you would have already created it. Can you see that? Let's look at that issue, which is part of the law of abundance, which is a different law, but let's look at how it works. If I make the statement, what I desire, I create, and let's just put in what I truly desire. Is that the right way of spelling it? Yeah, relief. What I truly desire, I create. So remember that desire is not something that you can manufacture in your mind. Desire has to be a pure thing coming from your soul. When I say a pure thing, it doesn't have to be based on harmony with truth or disharmony. It can be either. It can be harmony with truth, disharmony with truth, harmony with love, disharmony with love. It doesn't matter whether it's harmonious with love or truth. What matters is it a real feeling you have? Is it a real desire that you have? And if it's a real desire, what you truly desire at the soul level, so let's put that in the brackets, is what you create. So if right now I am not creating enough money for me to live on, but I'm doing what I feel is everything harmonious with love and truth, then I mustn't really desire money. What might be some of the reasons why I might not desire it? Well, I might have a belief that money is control and I don't want to control people. Can you see that belief would be actually affecting my desire? Can you see that? I might have a thing of money is power and I don't want to have power, and so therefore I will reject money. I might have a belief that money is evil. Now, this is a very big Christian belief, right? Money is evil. You know, the Bible actually says the love of money is the source of all evil. It doesn't actually say that money is evil. But anyway, most people miss out the love bit and turn it into just the money being evil, of course. Now, can you see that if I have those belief systems that are a part of my soul, so they're what's truly in my soul, what am I going to create? I'm going to create a lot of lack of money. In my life. Can you see that? So you can actually find out through this law of desire what your true desires actually are by seeing the results of them in your life. So if we say, then, this is where there's another law called the law of cause and effect that I haven't talked about much with you, but let's say, here is the general principle. What I desire, I create. So you could say then the creation is the effect of my desire. So if what I desire I create, then if I look at my creations and I'm unhappy with them, I need to have a look at how my desires are affecting these creations. My real desires. Makes sense? So we can use examples in a lot of areas of life with this, with regard to our desires and passions. You see, a lot of times we say we have a pure desire for something, but our desire is actually very, very different to what we believe it to be. For example, many people enter a relationship in order to be loved. And what they do is they find a person who is willing to love them, and then they shower them with all of their love. Does that make sense? Now, obviously, this relationship may or may not be a soulmate relationship, but most people think it is one. But the truth is, what's creating it is this desire to be loved. And that's going to create a situation where I'm loved in the manner in which I want to be loved, which is not actually, in most cases, real love anyway. So that's going to be my creation. I'm going to feel quite happy about it until the guy goes off and cheats on me. And then I'll realise that I wasn't as loved as I thought I should be. And then I go and get rid of him and find another guy who will give me the love that I want. Or another girl, just replace the gender. Now, in each case, what I'm not understanding is what I truly desired, I created. Firstly, I created a relationship which was all about me being loved. I also created his infidelity through my actions. And when I say created, obviously he had a part of that, but I created the attraction of a person who was going to be unfaithful to me. Does that make sense? In most cases, this is what's going on. And then on top of that, I then had another creation, which was to expel him out of my life and go and get another guy who would love me the way I wanted. And in all of those things, I am still creating what I truly desired. So if I change my desire, I will change my creations. You see, most of us don't want to do that. Because most of us have a feeling that we don't want to bring our desires into harmony with divine love or into harmony with truth. And so what we want to do is hold on to our distorted desire because we want to feel that that's the real thing we want. And we don't want to change those distorted desires to suit what God designed us to have. And so what we finish up then doing is creating a whole heap of things which, as per our previous equation, caused us pain. And if I'm honest with myself and say to myself, all right, what I desire, I create, then obviously if I'm creating things that cause me pain or cause other people pain, my desires are out of harmony with love and truth. It's quite simple. I can feel that. The opposite also is the truth. And that is, if I have a desire that's harmonious with love and truth, I am always going to create things that are going to bring me joy. So the result is going to be joy under those circumstances. Now that means then that you have complete control over the joy you experience, not using the New Age methods of changing your mind, but rather by actually bringing your desires into harmony with truth and love. That's how you create joys in your life. So if I'm in a state where I'm not feeling very joyous in my life, I need to start examining my desires. And start looking at the desires that are not harmonious with love and the desires that are harmonious with love, and all the reasons why I don't want to act upon my desires. Because if I act upon my desires, I will always create something. And if that thing I created brings me joy, then it was obvious that it must be harmonious with truth and love in that particular moment. And that's the thing that I need to understand with regard to desire. Desire is so important in every aspect of your life. Even in your relationship with God is based upon it, as we've seen just in our previous part of our discussion. And if you look at it, your relationship with your partner is also totally dependent upon desire. You have a microphone up there, thanks.
Hi AJ, I think where I get unstuck is what you said about the truth of my desire, but also my belief. I have a belief that I don't deserve money because when I was about 8, I asked my dad if I could have some pocket money, and he screamed at me and said, "How dare you ask me for money?
Yeah.
Don't you get everything that you want?" And of course, as a little girl, I didn't have the gumption to turn around and say, "Well, no, that's why I'm asking you for pocket money."
O sea, por eso es que te estoy pidiendo ese dinero de bolsillo.
But it did set me up very strongly that I didn't deserve money and I wasn't allowed to ask for more money. So once I found that out, then I realised that just having a desire to have more money wasn't going to do it. But I still haven't been able to get right into that causal, even though I really don't want a lot of money. I don't know whether I've ever had a true desire to have heaps of money, but I would like to have a little bit more than what I've got so that, you know, I can go and have some fun occasionally.
Yeah, see, you're not telling the truth.
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing. Time before last, you talked about God's truth and our truth.
Yeah, well, you're not even telling your truth.
Yeah. And I'm stuck trying to tell any kind of truth. Yeah.
Because
that is the truth.
The truth is, now you've told the truth. But the truth is this about the money issue for you. What you currently have created is what you wanted. That's the truth. So if that's the case, what you've got now is a lack of funds, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what I've got now is a lack of funds. Lack of money, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If that's what I have created, then under this law, basically what I'm saying is what you truly desired, you created.
Yes.
So what you truly desire is a lack of money.
So how do I get to the causal to get rid of that?
It's really easy. All you've got to do is ask yourself this question. Why would I do that?
Okay. Yeah.
What are the reasons that you can see straight away why you'd want to create a lack of money?
It's probably a comfort zone. It's what I know.
Okay, so you're basically saying fear is one way. You're actually afraid of having more. Okay, so that's one, but go on.
I really don't know. If I do know, I don't know how to express it.
Yeah, you do know.
Do I?
Yeah. Everybody knows the reason why.
Okay.
We just
I don't deserve it.
Okay, that's another good one. That's getting a bit lighter one, isn't it? I don't deserve it. Okay, any others you can feel?
Well, I feel like I didn't receive the response that I thought I was going to get from my father.
Yeah, now you're getting more closer. Right.
So
what was the response you got?
Anger. Okay. So I didn't feel like he...
So what's the relationship between wanting money and a father's approval?
Well, there was none. I mean, I was shocked with the response that I got from him.
So Daddy doesn't love me.
Yeah.
If I want money.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, he's the one who yelled at me again when I left my husband and said, "You've just thrown your security away."
Yeah, but that's a whole different issue than money, isn't it?
Okay.
So now you're raising a separate issue. This is what we often do, by the way. We throw in a furphy to get us away from the real issue.
Okay, well, we'll forget that
So I
furphy.
call that one a furphy.
Yeah. Okay.
And might be an issue you have emotionally, true, but it's not an issue related to this. Specific problem. The specific problem is you have a lack of money and you desire it.
Yeah.
And you've got to own that you desire it before you can ask yourself the question of why would I desire it?
Yeah.
Right? And then when I ask the question of why would I desire it, I start listing the reasons why I desire a lack of money.
Okay.
Right? These reasons need to emotionally leave me before money will come into my life. And anything else you do, you can work your guts out, have 3 jobs, do whatever you want. At the end of the day, anything else you do, this will cause a continual lack of money or your own exhaustion, one of the two. Because obviously, if you feel like you've got a lack of money, often people get driven into being a workaholic. So eventually they get money, but what happens in the rest of their life? Well, that all falls to bits too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you don't want that happening either. You want to have abundance, but also happiness.
Yes.
Okay, so this one's a very big one for you.
Mm.
So let's translate that into, all right, God doesn't love you if you have money either.
Mm. No.
This is a big multi-generational injury on the planet, you know. Happy are the meek, since they will inherit the earth. And you know what a lot of people interpret that to be? Happy are the poor, since they will inherit the earth. Now, there's a whole big difference between the word meek and the word poor. We don't often understand the difference, and often it's mistranslated as a difference as well. And so we come up with these beliefs. You have also a lot more beliefs about money. Money is evil.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm evil if I want it.
Yeah.
Right? These are all beliefs. They are all emotions that need to be released before abundance will appear. So with myself, I had heaps of them, right? And then I did the whole intellectual thing for a while, you know. So what I did for a while was, you know, I was always fine with spending money. Right? So in other words, I'm generous when I have it. So if I have it, I spend it, usually on other people generally. And so I have no problem with spending it. A lot of you do have problems with spending it, by the way. A lot of you get it and then you want to hoard it. Right? Why? You might have 100 grand sitting around. Why do you want to hoard it? That $100,000 could be creating things for you, really beautiful things in your life, lots of different things in your life. If you spend it, right? And you want to hoard it, why do you want to hoard it for? Because you're afraid of your own financial insecurity. That's the only reason why you want to hoard. So look at that emotionally. There's emotions there. But then a lot of us also have a rejection of money. In other words, we're fine spending it, but we're not fine getting it.
I lost my key card the other day, so I reckon this one's up for grabs, because I went to buy some bickies and stuff to bring here today and I had no money. I couldn't get at my money.
Okay, so this is definitely something for you to look at emotionally. There is some deep childhood mum and dad emotions involved in a lack of money.
I know, I understand now that when I did ask Dad about the pocket money, his response was from fear because he didn't have any spare money.
Yep.
And he was in a great deal of fear
Yep.
At the time around money.
And you don't get Daddy's love if you ask for money. But there's also, for many people, an equation of if somebody gives me money, it means they love me.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that too at the moment.
Yeah.
That I'm doing some things for the wrong reasons.
Where you're giving some of your money away, trying to get people's love.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that a lot with my kids. To my detriment, I've given them money.
Yep.
But now, on the other hand, in a relationship, I don't want, I'm feeling like a relationship could be, the motive behind a relationship could be security, and I don't want that to happen either.
No, that's not true either.
Okay, righto, I want it, that's why I'm creating it.
Exactly.
But I want to get that emotion out of the equation.
Yeah, it's true that you want to change that.
Yeah.
That's very, very different than you saying, I don't want it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So understand a lot of times when people say in these discussions that we have, when I say to you, no, that's not true, the true state is the emotion that's in you right at the moment. I understand you do have some desires to change it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But before you can change anything, you need to admit the state you're in.
Yeah.
And the state you're actually in is quite different. You do want to have a man in your life for security reasons.
Yeah.
Because you can't create your own security.
Okay. Right.
Financially, right?
Yeah.
You're struggling to create your own financial security. What you need to do instead is address the reasons why you want to have this lack of money, have a lack of financial security. There's a lot of things in this. One of the things is, if a man comes along and rescues you, isn't that going to feel wonderful?
Yeah.
It's not going to be wonderful.
I know, but
it feels
that's
that
right.
way.
I don't want it to be a false thing.
Yeah.
You know?
So intellectually, we have a desire at this point to change the emotion. So that's really great. But we must first, before we can change the actual emotion, recognize the truth of the emotion. And the truth of the emotion is, I desire a lack of money. And the reason why I desire a lack of money is I want some right knight in his steed come around with, you know, and he rescues me and picks me up on and chucks me on the horse, and off we go into the sunset and we live happily ever after. And he's going to give me all the things that I can't create for myself.
That's it, isn't it? Not what I desire, what I can't create for myself.
Exactly. So, and what I'm saying to you is the reason why you haven't created it for yourself is because what you truly desire is a lack of money so that you can have this other thing fulfilled, which is the man come along and do it for you.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes. I do.
Right? So we need to be really honest with ourselves and examine the reasons why. We also really need to be honest and examine the reason we truly desire, and that is what I've created I did desire.
Yeah.
Right? So if I come to understand, all right, I've created this lack of financial security. I've created it. Why would I create such a thing? I must have some very strong emotional addictions to this to create it. Mustn't I?
Mm.
If it's something I'm thinking in my mind I don't want, I must have some very, very strong emotional reason. And this is where we get down to people saying, oh, you know, there's this the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. And the subconscious mind, you know, is not the same as the conscious mind. Forget all that. All it's about is you're not recognizing that you have a true desire in your soul to create a lack of money for very good, although not very beneficial, childhood emotional reasons.
Yeah.
Y aquí hay que poner por muy buenas razones emocionales de la infancia, aunque no muy beneficiosas, pero por muy buenas. En ese sentido, no de que sean buenas o malas, sino en esa expresión, esa frase hecha de, pues hay una razón ahí muy clara, emocional de la infancia, vale, aunque no sea muy beneficiosa, pero son buenas entre comillas, ¿no? Unas salidas de, luego lo comentamos si hay algún problema, ¿verdad? No pasa nada.
Okay, that, like I said, there was a belief system I knew that was stopping me from moving forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so with any of these things, the first step, of course, is this. So if we had to make some steps about what's going on in my life, why am I getting some painful events in my life? The first step is look at what I created. Look at the creation. State the truth about it. State the truth of it. Third point, own it. Very important point. How can I ever change if I don't own the fact of what I've created? I can't ever change, so I need to own it. Once I've owned the creation and I've stated the truth about the creation, I've owned the creation, so now I'm going to emotionally own.
O lo asumo emocionalmente, me adueño de ello. Sí, en ese sentido. Tomo la responsabilidad, lo podemos decir también, ese adueñarse.
I do not want money. My life is a shambles and a mess, and it's illustrating to me how much I don't want money, actually. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's telling me everything I need to know. Own that. I don't want money. Always then ask why and be honest about the why. And you'll be surprised how many times you'll be really surprised of what is the result of the why. Because most of the time we've avoided that most of our life. Why would I create such a thing? And instead what I do is I go in my mind and go, no, that's not what I want. I really do want to have money in my life. What's Adrian saying? He's stupid man. You know, I really do want money. Why would I not want money for, you know? And we go down that track, but in reality then we're not understanding the basic principle of the law of desire. And that is, what I desire, I create.
Yeah. Thank you.
Questions? Come down there.
5 years ago, I was in New Orleans when Katrina blew in.
Yep.
And I was asking myself, what's my internal hurricane? And I discovered it a month later that I had been embezzled.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I had to ask myself, what had been my initial intention for becoming involved with this investment? And I came up with, well, I thought it would give me freedom. The emotion that finally surfaced for me about the embezzler was that I'd been deceived.
Mm-hmm.
So then I asked myself, well, hang on, how have I deceived myself about how I get freedom?
Mm-hmm.
And it ain't through an investment.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a result of that, I had to sell my house.
Yeah.
Can you help me with this?
I think you've answered pretty much most of your questions.
If that's it, I'm rattled then. Okay.
Yeah. Like, let's look at, here's the embezzler. His emotion is he wants to rip everyone off.
Yeah.
You know? In other words, he has an issue with money. Does he not?
Yeah.
If he wants to rip everyone else, he wants to have a quick buck, you know. Here's you. What's your hook? Your hook into him is?
Easy money.
Yeah. Notice how it's very much the same as the embezzler's motive.
Yeah.
Easy money. This is often the case, by the way. Our motive is often very much the same as the embezzler's motive, which causes the law of attraction. So here I am, I want easy money, so I listen to his words, and there must be some other things playing too. He's a male, okay. So how did you come to hear about all this? Was it through the net or was it personally?
Through friends.
Through friends, okay.
Also,
lost money, of course. Yeah, of course. So what caused them to investigate it all? Like, what was their motives? You see, it was probably almost the same, some easy money and so forth. You know what I mean? You can see how the law of attraction is bringing all these people together for a big trigger about money and financial security and so forth. Okay. That obviously comes from inside of me an unhealed emotion that I can't create for myself. You needed somebody else to create for you. You had your own money, didn't you? Otherwise you wouldn't have had anything to invest, would you? So you had some of your own money and you could have created something for yourself with that money. Could you not?
Yes.
But you decided that you couldn't.
Yeah.
So what's the emotion there? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm stupid.
Lack of faith in myself.
Lack of faith. Faith in myself. You can see you can list quite a few, and you need to list quite a few. And what you do there is you go through that list and start working through those emotions one by one. Allow yourself to feel about all of those emotions as to why you didn't have any faith in yourself, why you didn't believe in yourself, why you felt you had to give someone else your money to create more. All of those things, because basically it all came from your hook, and that is that you believed inside of yourself that you weren't good enough to do it for yourself. And all that had someone come along, easy money, give him some money. Well, he lost it all. And probably it's all somewhere in a offshore bank account somewhere, right? And every one of those people who were attracted to the easy money are now out of money, because every one of those persons had a true desire. What was their true desire?
More money.
And see, that's their intellectual desire. That's what they acted on. But the result is that they actually lost all their money. So what was their true desire?
To lose all their money.
To lose all their money. That's their true desire. Why would a person want to lose all their money? There's got to be some pretty big emotional reasons to want to lose all your money. Can you see that? There's got to be, doesn't there? All right, so it might be one, I don't feel worthy of having any money. Two, it might be that I'm quite angry about money. And so therefore, every time every time I think about money, I'm upset and angry and frustrated. That's going to reject money. Three, I might think money is evil. Negative, bad.
That's an old message from my mother.
Yeah, and so forth. I might have been manipulated by money in the past, and now that I've got some, I feel manipulated by it. I feel controlled by it. So I want to get rid of it all again.
Could it be also from guilt from having pinched money as a child?
Very much so.
Yeah, well, I put my hand up for that one.
Yeah. And how many children have pinched money as a child?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much all of us, right? Have done that one. I did it once with my grandmother. I can remember I felt so guilty afterwards. I had to go and own up and give it all back. But what I did was I went to a person, put all of the money in some plasticine that I had. Bad idea. It took me ages to get it back out again. It's like, But yeah, see, it's like, this is what we do, is we feel guilty. There's all sorts of emotions at play, right down to emotions regarding love of a parent, love of other people. You look at how many people in Australia are honoured if they have lots of money. Like, it's all right to have sort of some money in Australia, isn't it? But if you've got lots of money, it's a totally different thing, isn't it? There's a lot of negative connotations there in Australia generally, and by the way, in other countries it's even worse.
Me dice connotaciones negativas.
In many cases. So there's also cultural and environmental factors that would cause us to want to reject money.
O sea, ambientales en el sentido de nuestro entorno cercano, cultural y todo eso.
How do all your friends act when you have plenty of money? There might be jealousy projected of you and you might be rejecting that. There might be the issue of feeling like, you know, they want to bring you down, you know, that projection that people have at you. And you feel terrible about that, so get rid of some money, that makes you feel better. And do you know what I mean? There's lots of emotional reasons why you'd want to do that. And the key is, again, to go back to what I'm creating, I really desire. And it's a very powerful thing to understand what I'm creating, I really desire. Because if I understand that, I can look at all my creations and be really honest with myself about how they got to be. But if I neglect that, if I neglect what I create, then I just say, no, I didn't want to create that. I didn't want to create that. Don't be silly, right? If I say that to myself, I'm now neglecting the fact that I've got all these desires in me that created it. And do you know what the rest of my life's going to be like? It's going to create all those things I think I don't want, but actually I'm not being honest about. And remember, it's what you want at the soul level, which is at the emotional level. Not what your intellect is telling you want, but actually what you feel you want inside of yourself. Now, many of you have come up to me and said, oh, I want a loving relationship. And I ask, are you in a loving relationship? And you go, no. So you don't want one. Be honest about it. I don't. Come up to me instead and say, I don't want a loving relationship. How do I get a desire to have a loving relationship? That's more honest, rather than coming up and saying to me, oh, I want a loving relationship, but you're not in one. Many of you come up to me and say, I want my soulmate. Go away. Like, no, you don't. Like, if your soulmate's not there right in front of you, then did you want her or him? No, you don't. Why wouldn't you? Because I have some very deep emotional reasons why I don't, right? One of them might be, what happens if he's not what I want? Like, that's a big emotional reason, is it? But fear of what it is. What happens if he comes along, right, and he changes my life? Whoa, like what happens? What happens if, like, I actually give him my heart? No, it's better to have control of your heart, right? Got control of your heart, you've got control of your life, you can control everything then. You don't need to give anybody your heart. Or it might be like, what happens if I'm open and vulnerable and he knows all of my secrets? Like you can see how there'd be lots of emotions at play with regard to why I'm rejecting my soulmate from my life. So we need to be very honest. And the way that we're honest is we go, all right, what I have right now is what I created. I created it because I truly desired it. The law of desire is always at work, and I created it because I truly desired it, what distorted desire would cause this creation? What unloving desire in me would cause this creation? And then when I start digging deeply, I can be honest about a lot of my desires. And, wow, I don't want to be open and vulnerable to the opposite sex. Why would I want that? I don't want to be in a loving relationship where I feel like I'm being controlled. I don't want that. I don't want to have to give up my life for some fella. I'm sick of that. Let's be honest about the emotions that are really there, because they are the emotions that I'll need to step through and release, you see. So what I desire, I create. That is a very, very important principle, and I can't stress that enough to you. It gives you a lot of control, ironically, over your life in a soul-based, joyful way, in the sense that you can look at your creation and say, well, I created that. Isn't this wonderful? I created that. Isn't this wonderful? I created this lack of abundance. I'm a pretty powerful creator. Right? I created this lack of abundance, and it's because of all these emotions that I have that I created this lack of abundance, you know? This emotion that if I had anything else, Daddy wouldn't love me anymore. And so forth, you know, whatever is going on. Or I created this no soulmate in my life. I'm a powerful creator. Hey, you've got to be pretty powerful to create no soulmate in your life. No, let me illustrate that for you. Remember I said to you that there's two halves of the soul. And I said to you in the soulmate discussion that the most powerful force that you are ever going to experience besides love between you and God is going to be the attraction between the two halves. I said that to you, didn't I? That's going to be far more powerful than any attraction to any child, any other relationship you ever have, any business partnership. This attraction is the most powerful attraction that God created. Now, if you're not with your soulmate, you're a very powerful creator in the opposite direction. Does that make sense to you? Like that you're struggling with all your might to keep you apart. Because if you weren't struggling with all your might to keep you apart, you'd already be together. Can you see that? Because the law of attraction between soulmate halves, and I'm not joking, is the strongest possible force you can encounter. Right? So if that's the case, you can see that my desires must be very powerful to even keep the strongest possible law of attraction that God has created apart.
Apartar en un sentido de dividir, por así decir, sí, apartarme de ella.
That's how powerful your desires are. That's how powerful even your negative desires are, let alone your positive ones. So that's a very interesting thing to think about.
Bueno, el ejemplo que viene ahora, muy importante también, lo hemos visto con casos como el de Andrew y todo esto, y los que vivimos en parte, seguramente nosotros. ¿Queréis parar o seguimos 20, 15 minutos más? Yo sigo si no pasa nada.
Me siento bien, Iván, de seguir. No sé, Ana.
Respiramos en la barrigota. ¿Qué tal, Ana? Te tienes que desilenciar. Bueno, si no dice nada, seguimos. Porque no sé si en su aplicación tiene, a la hora de encontrar el botón del silenciamiento, tiene más historia. A lo mejor se nos ha dormido. Un desencarnado nos la ha dormido. Tenéis que llamar a la ambulancia, Claudia. Bueno, sigamos. Ahí estamos.
No estaba dormida. Estoy fascinada porque todo lo que dice coincide perfectamente conmigo. Perfecto. Sí. Es que no conseguí el botón.
Vale.
Gracias.
Sí. Venga, pues seguimos.
Gracias.
Te desactivo el... Ah, ya lo desactivo.
I'm not sure I want to bring this up, but it's sort of with me. Can you create an illness in another person?
You can create an illness in another person, but not without their approval at the soul level. So let's look how it happens. So here's me, and I have a feeling towards another person that, you know, not very nice feelings towards this person. And by the way, all of you have heard of like witch doctoring in the like Africas, and also here in Australia, the voodoo you've heard in the Americas and so forth. All of these are principles that are true, that work on this same principle that I'm going to illustrate to you. What happens is my desire then attracts spirits to me who feel much the same as me and are willing to try to act out this particular desire upon that person.
Aquí hay que añadir, mi deseo atrae hacia mí a aquellos espíritus que sientan lo mismo que yo y que estén dispuestos a tratar de actuar en base o según ese deseo particular sobre esa persona, o sea, esos sentimientos desagradables.
Person. And if this person has some kind of emotional connection to one of those spirits who can cause an illness, the person will actually attract the spirit through that emotional connection.
Aquí, como vemos, es la víctima. Estamos hablando ahora del lado de, entre comillas, de la víctima. Esta otra.
And now that spirit can cause a physical illness in their body.
Yeah, but even like that, that's kind of assuming that you don't like the other person.
Right.
But if you actually feel that's who you're married to.
Okay.
Can that and you figure you think you're happy. Mm-hmm. Can that still operate?
Well, it can still operate, yes, but it has to have the approval of both parties in terms of their emotional approval. Remember what I desire create. So let's say this is my partner, male partner, I'm assuming, right? So here's my partner, and my partner is getting a sickness of some kind. Now, if my partner is hooked into emotional approval from women,
más que está recibiendo o está teniendo, hay que poner ahí, está teniendo una enfermedad de algún tipo.
Right, hooked into giving the woman everything she wants. She wants. And I have a demand upon the male that he gives me everything I want. Can you see that I'm going to assist him in the creation of his own illness? See, I'm demanding something from him, which he has an illness about, he has an emotional connection with, and then therefore he starts giving to his own detriment, which causes an illness in his own body. So yes, I can assist the creation of an illness in my partner or in my child or anybody else for that matter, just by my demands upon them. Now, that doesn't mean they're not responsible, because they are obviously responding to those demands, right? And if they loved themselves, they wouldn't be doing that. You follow me?
But do you have to be demanding of them for them to? Because
yes, there has to be some emotion.
Yeah.
Remember, it's not a physical or voiced demand.
Expresada con voz, quiere decir.
Anything I place upon you is emotional, not physical. I can assist it with physical things. So I can say demand, I can speak my demands to you. But I can be quite controlling of you in different ways. For example, I could be in a relationship with you, right? And every time you do one particular thing that distresses me, I can just cry. And if you have some kind of emotional hook into a man crying, you will definitely stop doing what you do. But you'll also feel controlled when you stop. And it's really easy for me. All I need to do is cry, you're controlled. Cry again, you're controlled. Cry again, you're controlled. Now let's reverse it. It might be anger. All I need to do is feel angry. Go out and kick a car, you know? But every time you notice my anger, you feel very stressed out about what you did. I don't even have to aim it at you. And I can control you if you have the opposite hook.
Aquí en realidad es, no tengo ni siquiera que dirigir la ira hacia ti, apuntarte hacia ti con la ira. Puedo controlarte.
Of yourself. Right? Now this is where people amaze me when they say I try to control people, because if I was trying to control you, the majority of you would be really, really controlled. Because I know most of your emotional hooks, right? So if I really wanted to control you, I could easily control you. But the thing is, as you get more love and you can feel more emotions from people, you feel less desire to control. Now, so what's happening in many relationships is one of us has an emotion and the other one has what we would call a sympathetic emotion, which enables them to be controlled by the original emotion. But when that happens inside the person, often an illness will generate if they feel like they shouldn't do that at some level. Again, if they look at it, what they desired, they created. They desired an illness. Why would you desire an illness? Can you do as much for another person while you have an illness? You can't, can you? You can only do a lot for another person if you're well, can't you? So if you have an illness, what starts happening then? You start getting some of the control back, don't you? You start realising, oh, the other person starts noticing and saying, oh, well, you're sick, I'll do that.
But if I unconsciously wanted to be single, would that have any effect? And I don't have any awareness of having wanted to be on my own again. But you know, I just.
Why do you ask the question, though? It's a strange question to ask for somebody who's never considered it.
Well, you know, I'm really wondering because
your partner's dying.
He has died.
He has died, yeah.
Yeah, and I can remember one time he commented to me about a symptom he had.
Yeah.
And my background's nursing, and we were preparing for a dinner party at the time, and I was distracted, but I never thought of it again, and he never brought it up again.
What did he say?
What did I say?
What did he say? He said something to you.
Oh, he said that he had a bit of blood in his urine. He had kidney cancer. And at that time, my response.
Él tenía, en ese momento no lo sabrían, hay que quitar el que hay. Tenía cáncer de riñón y en ese momento mi respuesta
was, well, I guess if it happens again, you should see a doctor. The topic never came up again, and I never thought of it at all until after he had died, right. And thought could there be a connection? And I had never thought of this before either until you're talking about it now.
Well, firstly, can I say to you, the questions that you're asking are being driven by guilt. So let's have a look at that emotion. All right. Mm-hmm. So we want to see why you're asking the questions firstly. They're being driven by a feeling of guilt. You're afraid that you might have assisted the creation of his illness. Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question, because I'll dwell on it if I don't ask you.
Well, I think you need to dwell on it as much more then and feel your way through this guilt, because there's obviously something under it. So what's the guilt, right? Is it a feeling that you didn't care enough for him? What's the feeling that's there that's right?
Well, I guess I'm feeling that our marriage could have been better than it was, and right. Part of that was my fault, I guess.
So you feel
how I reacted. Yeah.
You need to allow yourself to go into these emotions, because that's what's prompting a lot of your questions. The answer to your question, the question, not your emotion, is that actually, yes, through our emotional desires, we can certainly impact upon another person if they have a corresponding emotional injury that they'll respond to. And yes, that can certainly cause an illness and even their own death by responding to our desire or our demand. Let's call it, because desires are never demanding. So let's call it the demand. So if I have an emotional demand, like an emotional addiction, an emotional demand on the other person at some point, they can, if they have an emotion where they will actually feel that demand and respond to it, then that can certainly create an illness in their own body. So in a way, I have assisted in the creation of their illness. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Obviously, they needed to be a party to it. Yeah. Otherwise, I couldn't. So I can't take full responsibility for the fact that that created the illness, because remember what they desired, they created. They created the illness for a reason. And a lot of times we create illness so that we can get off the hook of something. Right? I know in my life, I used to get sick on the average every month for 1 week solid. When I say sick, I mean sick. I was like bedridden sick, right? For a whole week every single month for the majority of my life, from the age of about 18 to 33. The reason why I created that, my creation, right? The reason why I created that was because I would be doing so much for everybody else the rest of the time that I had not a single amount of time to even take any space for breathing for myself, basically. And so I needed a week off every month, and I created it by getting sick. Now, the instant I realised that, I stopped doing all of these other things that were creating this busy life and all these other things. And ironically, from that moment, I never got sick again. Unless I had some other issue going. But for nearly 7 years, I didn't get any sickness after that moment. And the only...
Aquí dice 7, pero en la transcripción 9.
The only time I did was when I was in denial of another emotion. So I'd gone from the year 18 to 33. So how long is that? That's about, what, 15 years? I went 15 years getting sick every week just to get out of doing things every month, just to get out of doing things for other people, because that's what I was doing the rest of my life. And I created it. And the instant I realised it, and the instant I actually allowed myself to feel about the emotional reason for that, which was lots of things about hooking in desire for approval, desire for acceptance, desire to be doing the right thing, and all these other hooks that I had into that. And I started dealing with those emotionally. The instant I did that, I never got sick for 7 years. That's a big change, isn't it? Right? It blew me away. If somebody had told me before that time that all of my sickness was self-created, I would have laughed at them. I'd been sick from the moment I was born, basically, from what I can remember. Right? I can remember being in hospital 2 years of age, having a bowel operation, like, you know, to have part of my bowel removed because I was so sick all the time. And then just a series of things going on all through my life where I was always sick. I always had a runny nose. The reason why I carry a hanky around now is still because there's this thing. See, I've got a hanky. Mary laughs at me sometimes because whenever she goes to cry, I just hand her the hanky, right? But before, what would happen was, like, I needed this hanky, and I used to carry 4 around with me because 1 was never enough in a day. and my nose would be constantly streaming. I used to take these medication. I don't know if you've heard of an old medication called Zadine or whatever it is. Those of you who've had runny noses years ago would probably relate to it. And they used to dry up everything, not just your nose, right? And so I'd either be popping one of these things or be out with a hanky. That was my life for most of my life. All of that stopped. A whole lot of that stopped when I started allowing my grief to flow. It was all just about me not wanting to feel grief. A whole lot. The instant I started allowing my grief to flow, I didn't have to do that anymore either. So I haven't taken any medication from that 13 years ago that occurred, and I've never taken any medication since. That point in time. And I was as sick as a dog all the time. And I created it. And I didn't, if I knew that, if I remembered this particular thing at that time, I would have gone, wow, like, but that's what it caused me to see, like, that I saw, what's going on with me? Why am I doing this? God, no, I always had this belief inside of me that God created a perfect system here. This body is a perfect system. So if a perfect system isn't working properly, there's got to be a reason. Right? Why is it that your body can expel millions of germs a day and you breathe them in every moment? Like right at the moment, you're breathing in millions of germs. You know that? Like right at the moment, you're doing it. And your body says, all right, no, don't want that one, don't want that one, don't want that one. Gets rid of them fine. So why do you catch one of them then? You know, what you call catch one of them. Well, because you wanted it. That's why there's emotion that's saying, I want this somewhere. And we need to look at it, because what we desire, we create. So yes, your husband created this as well. And yes, there is a possibility that because of a projection from you, he actually responded to that projection to you, and that created some of his problem. But it's not the only problem, because he must have wanted that emotion from his childhood. So it's an unhealed childhood emotion that would have caused all of these things. The issue for you emotionally, though, is that you feel a heap of guilt, and you need to allow yourself to feel your way through the guilt.
Yeah, because I think it was quite strange that symptom that he reported, neither of us ever mentioned again, and not even when he was actually diagnosed, which would have been about 2 or 3 years after that, when it had already metastasized and whatever. But the subject never raised its head again. So that, to me, that's what I was more wondering about. Was I or somehow repressing that thought? Because ordinarily I would have been on his tail to go off and see a doctor again.
Yeah, but of course you would have been suppressing it.
But I never thought of it, yeah.
there's an emotional reason why you would have suppressed it. So you see a lot of times that the emotional reasons are not as bad as what we think, in the sense of negative as what we think. The emotional reason might have been just a simple one as you didn't want to come face to face that this was a life-threatening illness. It could be just simple as that. Like a lot of times people who are living in a happy situation or relatively happy situation don't want to be confronted with the fact that it might change. So when a person says something that could have a lot of connotations to it, we ignore it because we don't want to change our current environment. It's like, I'll bury my head in the sand, you know, and then everything will go away.
But I mean, it was never even thought of. That was the curious thing, that it never surfaced.
Yeah, that's burying your head in the sand.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I feel better. I don't feel quite so guilty.
Well, I didn't do it to make you feel less guilty. You need to feel your way through your guilt because there is some guilt driving you and the questions that you're asking.
Bueno, aquí llegamos a una de las partes más importantes quizás y ahora sí tengo que descansar. Ya se ha hecho un poco tarde también aquí. Lo terminaríamos mañana. Hoy os paso el PDF, aunque no será la versión definitiva porque hay que quitarle unos pocos fallitos que estamos viendo ahí y que me han quedado en la revisión. Bueno, ¿queréis comentar algo de esto? En unos minutillos para...
No, yo
en
lo
mi
único
caso...
dale,
Perdón,
Ana, dale, por favor, dale.
No, que conmigo las pegó toditas. Aquí, pues, por decir, me vi completamente retratada en todo. Y qué maravilla. Me gustó muchísimo.
Sí.
Vi, Klaus, por favor. Qué sanador, Iván.
Sí,
wow.
Ana, sí, a mí también, en todo
¿Verdad?
este recorrido. Fue así y
No.
quería decir nada más y traer a colación en uno de los talleres que ahora no recuerdo bien cuál era, que él hablaba con una mujer que se sentía confundida y él decía, bueno, ¿y qué emoción tienes que sentir? No, ahora me siento confundida. ¿Qué emoción tienes que sentir? Le pregunta él. Jesús a esta señora y ella le dice, ¿tengo que sentirme segura? Entonces le dice, no, ¿cómo dijiste que te sentías? Confundida. ¿Y qué emoción crees que tienes que sentir? Claro, y en muy nueva era esto de trasladarnos a la emoción opuesta, ¿no? Como sin nada, como girar un volante mecánicamente, y que siempre es la emoción que estás sintiendo la que tenés que sentir. Digamos, en este sentido que, bueno, es la culpa, por ejemplo, en el caso de esta mujer que está ahí dando vuelta y dando vueltas sobre la culpa, y Jesús ya que le dijo de entrada cuando empezó a ser muy insistente con la pregunta de que, bueno, que era lo que le llevaba a preguntar y que por ahí tenía que entrar, ¿no? Por ahí creemos que, ay, no, ¿y por dónde? Y como muy intelectual, pero se trata más de sentir que de pensar y que el alma sabe, eso también lo aprendimos ahora, o sea, ya el alma lo sabía, conectamos ahora con esa frase que dijo Jesús hace poco, que es esa cuestión de confiar en el proceso, de ir más bien sintiendo, básicamente, como que el alma sabe lo que tiene que hacer, quería decir. Y
sí,
eso.
Y el principio de responsabilidad, por así decir, estamos todo el rato, pues eso, enterrando la cabeza en la arena, que es bueno, la emoción de adicción, adictiva de la culpa, que Jesús se ha puesto ahí a hacerle gestos para abajo, para arriba, la cabeza, se la ha enterrado él en el suelo y la mujer ahí, pues nada, riéndose y bien.
Clau, repite esta parte última, perdón, que dijiste que ahorita.
No sé cuál es la última. Yo quería,
bueno,
ilustrar con que la emoción que está sintiendo es la emoción que necesita sentir. Si está la culpa, ella está impulsada por la culpa, su pregunta. Es la puerta, es el portal, es por donde ella tiene que entrar para llegar a la raíz. Entonces, ella se siente culpable y eso va a empezar cuando procese la culpa y la sienta, va a empezar a devanar el resto. Por ahí uno como que quiere saber por qué hizo, cómo hizo.
Tú dijiste una cosa muy interesante. Sí, está perfecto.
No, claro, entonces por ahí yo recuerdo de ese taller porque me quedó muy claro que esta señora se pasa al frente y le dijo, vengo porque me siento confundida. Entonces, estaba preocupada, pero como pensando que era un error la emoción que sentía y pensando que debería cambiarla, entonces le dijo Jesús, ¿y qué emoción crees que tienes que sentir? ¿Seguridad y firmeza? O no me acuerdo, porque dijo dos palabras, tengo más visual el párrafo, pero seguridad y tal cosa, que es muy propio de nosotros, ¿no? De pensar, muy nueva era esto, de que siento miedo, tengo que ir a la certidumbre, o me voy directamente
a lo asertivo.
Claro, o lo único que hay es el presente, como que anular todas las posibilidades de incertidumbre. No sentir la emoción, ese maquillaje al que tendemos.
Este tema tan simple, que lo tenemos apuntado en 1000 sitios, ¿verdad? En los resúmenes, las páginas, en el tema de que si no sentimos el error, pero con humildad, que eso es lo que significa la humildad, no hay nada que hacer.
Tal cual, sí.
Esa maniobra intelectual de decir, no, como esta emoción es un error, entonces yo lo que tengo que sentir, esa la tenemos que poner un nombre. Voy al servicio y vengo un momento, ahora que yo ya estoy descansando, no me importa seguir todo el rato que queramos, pero ahora mismo.
Bueno, entonces nos vamos a parar para tomar agua.
Bueno, dale. No, te pregunté si respondía a tu pregunta o no. Dale, sí, haremos.
Sí, claro, mi amor, por supuesto, muchas gracias.
Dale.
No, está súper emocionante, pero voy a tomar agua.
Dale,
y
vamos
estirar
todos.
un poquito las piernas. Vamos, ¿verdad? ¿Cuántos minutos dijo Iván? No dijo nada, ¿no?
Y quédate cerquita nomás, Ana. Estirá mientras yo estoy acá.
Hola, hola.
Estoy, Iván. No sé, ¿qué hora es? Yo me pierdo con vos. Uy, 9:30.
Sí, bueno, no es más que la hora, era parar por la atención ahí, que llevaba mucho rato y sí, también ya es tarde, dentro de mucho rato, bueno, pero aún se puede, podemos comentar algo era por parar la atención y eso, sí. tenemos la señora esta.
Creo, no sé, Iván, más adelante está donde habla de una oración, también como para beneficio de los oyentes, como dice a veces Jesús, también para que en esta cuestión de que, porque él contribuye mucho, ¿no? Desde la condición de su alma, ¿no? Desde su percepción, contribuye mucho al discernimiento del otro, pero un poco esto de que podemos sentir, creo que va a venir ahora, ¿no? La oración.
De que podemos
un poco más adelante.
sentir.
Yo la copié en mi libro de sentir los miedos, porque también esto de recordar un poco que era lo que puse en el post de hoy, que era el mensaje de Ramta, en realidad, en el taller del miedo, esta inspiración que te da y esta cuestión de enmarcar la experiencia, que está siempre siendo cuidada, que las leyes y principios, bueno, ahí lo muestra la ley de la atracción, están obrando para que encontremos la desarmonía y además que tenemos guías y que tenemos, una vez que deseemos verdaderamente procesar, que tenemos todo un dispositivo de acompañamiento importante, que lo estamos experimentando incluso, lo vamos contando en los videos. Creo que viene ahora a partir del punto 4, ¿no? Cuando entra el miedo como... que hay una breve oración que hace. Es muy importante también tener en cuenta.
Que ha ido Ana a pasear.
Me dijo, voy a estirar las piernas y voy a tomar agua. No, primero al revés. Voy a tomar agua y voy a estirar las piernas. Claro, yo creo que no me escuchó la parte que yo le dije, voy a estar acá.
Sí, rezar a Dios para ver la verdad, para conocer.
Claro, eso quería contar porque en la primera parte que grabamos hoy de este taller, cuando yo comenté cómo descubro la verdad, entre comillas, es un trabajo que viene con mucho de, como ese estado emocional abierto, que bien lo dice Jesús, de una condición que la pone uno con el deseo, y por otro lado llega, digamos, el mensaje, la verdad, como que, por eso digo, la forma en que es muy, no tiene esfuerzo, eso quería decir, tiene y realmente ilumina, porque conectás y decís, claramente, o sea, lo ves así como muy, muy claro, no hay como, y bueno, pero quizás sea esto, no es tan ese trabajo que uno cree, porque esta señora, la última que vimos, está muy enredada, pero yo percibo más bien que es esto que dice Jesús a lo último, el no querer ver, porque sigue dando vueltas sobre el lugar y no está queriendo. Y por ahí creemos que con la herida de autosuficiencia que tenemos, como queremos que, qué difícil todo esto, ¿no? Pero en realidad, cuando hay...
No tenemos confianza en ese proceso de nosotros a solas, con Dios y los guías, y haciendo la lista de miedos, ¿no? Que tú llevas una lista larga y también has hecho.
Sí, eso, justamente, y eso decía Ranta, que es abrumador para nosotros y que pensamos que esta ardua tarea de procesar los miedos como algo muy difícil. Él dice, no, realmente una vez que tienes el deseo, que tienes compañía en el camino, que no es así. Bueno, tenemos heridas con Dios, sí, tal cual como dijiste, y pensamos que básicamente no nos ayuda y nos castiga.
Sí, y estamos muy adictos a seguir el mismo bucle. Sí, en las adicciones, autosuficientemente.
Sí, a mí me contribuyó mucho esto, de entrar por las creaciones, de entrar por el estado en el que estoy ahora. sumamente elocuente ver como lo que he elegido, y ponerte en este lugar sin la culpa. También me pasa eso con mis hijos, por ejemplo, de ver un poco, ya me pasó con el de crianza, esta cuestión de verme un poco esperanzada, mucho más esperanzada, a pesar de que sentí un día que llegué tarde, digamos, sentí la desesperanza un día, me quedó claro porque fue un día que estaba muy compungida, y entonces justamente empecé a leer el de crianza, y él le responde eso a una mamá, que no, que claramente era lo mejor que podía pasar, estar en contacto con la verdad, porque ahora sí entrábamos en un espacio de poder cambiarlo.
Claro. Entonces fíjate el contraste, ¿no? Que sería si ahora te entregaras a la adicción de la culpa, como ese narcisismo que solemos tener todos evitaría el bien para ti, para tus hijos. Sí. Claro, fíjate, claro, es súper autosuficiente, aunque no lo parezca, el tema de quedarse en la culpa, porque no involucramos a Dios en tanto que Dios es el padre o la madre del alma, o sea, de tus hijos y de nosotros. Y entonces es como que tenemos una especie de deuda con Dios, que podría ser la interpretación buena de cuando el Padre Nuestro rezaba, el Padre Nuestro clásico, perdona nuestras deudas, así como nosotros perdonamos a nuestros deudores, que tiene ese sentido. Sí. Por eso se lo dirigimos a Dios, porque Él es con el que tenemos la deuda, en el fondo, pero no una deuda culposa, culpable, sino en ese sentido de técnico, científico, de, a ver, no hay apertura a Dios si no reconocemos eso que cuenta como deuda. No es que Dios esté apuntando ahí siendo malo, no es que es por ley. El alma es tan grande que para acceder a toda su grandeza tenemos que recibir ese perdón, pero no nos podemos abrir si no nos arrepentimos en ese sentido. Claro, fíjate cómo esa frase de las deudas tiene que ver con el arrepentimiento, que lo han cambiado a perdona nuestras ofensas, así como nosotros perdonamos a los que nos ofenden. Lo han cambiado.
Claro, sí, mira a dónde llegamos. Qué bueno. Sí.
Iván, qué interesante, de verdad, tomar en cuenta que esa autosuficiencia tiene que ver con la culpa. O sea, yo manejo mi culpa, nadie más me va a solucionar esto, ¿no? Qué maravilla.
Y es el gesto aprendido desde pequeñitos, no, yo me castigo. Ahora yo, con mis padres,
sí.
Dios no me protege, de que mis padres están aquí haciendo lo que les da la gana, quieren que yo tengo la culpa de sus emociones, por lo tanto yo me castigo teniendo la culpa y luego pues haciendo una fachada, a lo mejor, y me va bien en la vida, y me alegre, entre comillas, pero al final pillo un cáncer de tremendo y no sé qué, y no sé por qué es. Sí, ahí estamos.
Muy bueno.
En la vieja era, a ver si de la noche a la mañana todo cambia, sin expectativas, llamáis por teléfono a los magnates y les exorcizáis a los espíritus.
Bueno, eso iba a decir, Iván, los espíritus entraron recién acá en esta pregunta de la enfermedad, pero qué importante como para entender todo el panorama que estamos viviendo a nivel humanidad, a gran escala, la misma lógica de interacción, digamos, de co-creación que están ejerciendo tanto los espíritus que comparten esas heridas como nosotros, por un lado, que estamos proyectándola hacia afuera en la adicción. O sea, el trueque es a gran escala la base de nuestra creación. Todos coparticipamos de alguna forma dentro de la lógica, de la ecuación. Y veía cómo escindir esa parte de los espíritus, que es muy importante, el mal en este sentido, ¿no? De obrar desde el deseo en desarmonía, que también genera creaciones, y ver cómo estamos creando nosotros, cómo participamos.
Son las tentaciones de la carne que dice la oración del amor divino. Por televisión te hace una tentación de la carne. Los desencarnados que están en las farmacéuticas dicen, venga chicos, vamos a enfermarnos, dinerito, poder para nosotros, aunque sois un alma maravillosa y el cuerpo es perfecto, pero venga, vamos a creer en la enfermedad, vamos a creer que la enfermedad viene de fuera, que no tenéis responsabilidad, o sea, atentando contra todos los principios de Dios, el principio de responsabilidad, del deseo, para que siga la humanidad. Aprovechar este último tramo, porque no sabemos si van a poder seguirlo haciendo de la manera en que lo hacían, que eso se trata de que se va a cambiar el mundo, en teoría, de aquí a unos años tiene que resetearse cosas, sí o sí, para que se sostenga tanta cantidad de millones de almas vibrando desarmónicas, no pueden, de la Tierra no puede, en teoría, algo así. Claro, y entonces, lo que decías, globalmente, la invitación esa, todos a enfermar, que te lo habrás recordado cuando ahí Jesús ha hablado del sistema perfecto corporal, ¿no?
Sí, sí, sí. Sí, lo publiqué ahora hace poco, porque tan claro, digamos así, y como decimos nosotros, del amor, o sea, Dios es perfecto en amor. Si yo no estoy sintiendo el amor de Dios, tiene que ver conmigo, porque Él es perfecto, Él no tiene heridas, o sea, y tener lo mismo con el cuerpo, es un diseño de Dios, es perfecto. Si algo no está funcionando aquí, tiene que ver conmigo, para poder asumir humildemente, digamos, mi relación con esa circunstancia. Y lo mismo pasa ahora en este momento con las polarizaciones de las opiniones y de las intervenciones y el ataque, la ira justificada, entre comillas, la violencia justificada, digamos, entre comillas, que estamos haciendo como que del lado bueno lo mismo que del lado malo, por así decirlo, y también no ver, porque el lugar poderoso que estamos diciendo todo el tiempo acá, como dice Jesús, es, sí, esto lo he creado yo, y a partir de mis creaciones ver cuál es la emoción que me llevó a eso, que sería un buen indicador. Sigue siendo la ley y todo el tiempo actuando para que nos demos cuenta de la desarmonía. Sin embargo, como que en esta, como decís vos, no asumir responsabilidad, entonces todo el día el dedo acusador y como si estuviéramos exentos de que esto nos cae de arriba, como si así.
Claro, no, sí, yo sí sigo ante la calamidad esta y la enormidad de lo que está pasando, sigo y seguimos en gran medida con la cabeza enterrada en la arena cual avestruces, porque esto hay mucho que llorar por esto que hemos creado. Es una pelota que se ha armado de herida multigeneracional, la tenemos en el alma, somos 100% responsables, y si realmente estuviera yo hablando ahora con sinceridad, pues estaríamos casi llorando, o sea, más que igual que esta mujer. O sea, aquí estamos hablando, sí, nos lo sabemos todo muy bien, pero realmente esto es dramático. O sea, sí.
Bueno, el día que yo sentí la desesperanza fue ese día, pensando en los niños, digamos, y realmente me sentía muy como que cuando ya la onda expansiva llega a los niños, entonces me sentí muy impotente. Dije, wow, no, y ese día me sentí vacía. Y recé porque en realidad sí había leído ya en uno de los PDF de la verdad que Jesús dijo, la desesperanza no es de Dios, pero si la tenés, como decíamos hace un rato, tenés que sentirla, atravesarla.
Sí.
Y si la sentís, hay que sentirla. Y bueno, fue lo que hice, pero sí, la parte de los niños fue muy fuerte, porque me devastó.
No,
Pensé, o sea, tenía la ilusión, parece, de que iba a parar todo esto antes de que llegue a los chicos.
¿No pensabas que iban a armarla tanto con
No,
vacunas a
sé que estaba tan enojado con la vida.
Y es eso, si no se va el error, no puede entrar nueva historia.
Sí. Y aparte, bueno, ahí me sirvió para, ahora que vimos lo de rezar, y bueno, nos encontraremos los 1.000 millones, seamos, en el mundo espiritual, de
Sí,
seguir deseando una relación con Dios, totalmente. Sí.
a ver cómo va el apocalipsis.
Ajá.
Bueno, pues queréis despedir y vamos a
Bueno.
procesar cosillas y ya.
Sí.
Ana,
Gracias.
gracias.
Bueno, Iván,
Sí.
cuando yo creo que les pregunté que ahora exigían pues para que los niños entren a clase, se les iba a exigir ese carnet pues de vacunación, ¿no? Y es que no me cabía en la cabeza, yo no puedo creer. Y tú me contaste que era así, pues, o fue Clau. Sí, es increíble, es increíble. Muy bueno todo, yo estoy contenta, muy agradecida.
Pues sí, gracias. A ver mañana entonces, que parece que podemos completarlo mañana mismo. Y está fantástico, sí.
Lo ponemos
Bueno, así que nos
sí.
despedimos ya. Gracias y
Bien.
nos despedimos del amado público. Bien.
Sí, sí.